I mean, how much is a lot of money to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Have you made, say, millions of dollars?
No.
Hello, how is your weather today? Bob Marley is not only an icon of music and peace, but also had a life full of ups and downs and little-known tragedies. His journey contains stories of surviving assassination attempts, complicated relationships, and battling a terminal illness. Have you ever wondered what challenges shaped the legendary Bob Marley? Discover his touching and profound story right below. A life shaped by poverty. The stark contrast between Bob Marley's humble beginnings and his later global fame underscores the remarkable journey of this musical icon. His early struggles would profoundly shape his worldview and eventually fuel the authentic messages in his reggae music. Robert Nesta Marley entered the world on February 6, 1945 in the rural community of 9 Miles, nestled in the mountainous terrain of St. Ann Parish, Jamaica. This small village, with its verdant hills and tight-knit community, formed the backdrop for his earliest years. During these formative times, young Marley resided primarily on his maternal grandfather Omariah Malcolm's farm. 9 Miles was far more than just a geographical location in Marley's development, it was a cultural cornerstone. The village preserved many customs derived from African ancestry, particularly the art of storytelling as a means of sharing traditions. These cultural elements, along with the natural rhythms of rural life, from rainfall on zinc roofs to birdsong in the hills, later infused Marley's music with distinctive authenticity. Life in 9 Miles was characterized by simplicity and challenges. The Marley family lived in a one-room house without electricity, running water, or abundant food. For a time, Bob even herded goats for his aunt as part of rural subsistence. Furthermore, these early experiences of rural poverty instilled in him a profound connection to the struggles of ordinary Jamaicans. The absence of his father cast a long shadow over Marley's childhood. His mother, Cedella Malcolm, was only 18 when she married Norval Sinclair Marley, a white British man in his early 60s who supervised land division for war veteran housing. Their interracial union in 1940s Jamaica brought additional challenges to young Bob's life. Captain Norval Marley, despite providing some financial support, rarely saw his son. According to records, the last time Bob Marley saw his father was at age 5, when Norval briefly took him to Kingston to attend school. 18 months later, Cedella discovered Bob wasn't attending school and was living with an elderly couple, prompting her to bring him back to 9 Miles. The psychological impact of this abandonment was significant. Marley grew up not only resentful toward his absent father, but also partly ashamed of his white heritage. Consequently, these feelings of rejection and complex identity issues influenced his music and shaped his strong allegiance to black culture and Pan-Africanism. In 1957, at age 12, Marley's life took a dramatic turn when he left the familiar rural setting of 9 Miles to join his mother in Kingston. They eventually settled in Trenchtown, an infamous neighborhood aptly named because it was built over a sewage trench. This transition exposed young Marley to a different kind of poverty, the harsh urban variant. Trenchtown presented extreme challenges. Unemployment rates in these low-income Kingston neighborhoods reached between 40 and 60%. Residents faced open sewers, disease, malnourished children, and frequent violence. During the politically turbulent 1970s, many Trenchtown residents lived in complete hopelessness, with scarce food, few jobs, and escalating political tension. Nevertheless, amid these difficulties, Marley quickly developed survival skills. His formidable street-fighting abilities earned him the nickname Tough Gong. For a period, he even joined rough local street gang. Despite its hardships, Trenchtown paradoxically provided fertile ground for Marley's musical development. The neighborhood was a culturally rich environment where many of Jamaica's notable musicians emerged, including Alton Ellis, Joe Higgs, and Jimmy Cliff. In this crucible of creativity, Marley's abundant musical talents were nurtured, setting him on the path to becoming the voice of the dispossessed. Bob Marley's difficult and impoverished childhood laid the foundation for who he was, but what helped him overcome those challenges and continue on his musical path? How did his deep faith, love for family, and the burden of expectations from those around him play a role in his journey. Let's explore how these factors influenced Bob Marley's life and career. Weight of expectations. Beyond Marley's musical genius lay a profound spiritual journey that shaped his artistry and personal choices. His embrace of Rastafarianism became the philosophical cornerstone from which his most impactful work would emerge. In the early 1960s, Marley discovered Rastafarianism, a religion that originated in Jamaica in the 1930s as a response to colonial oppression. This spiritual path centered on the divinity of Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie I, whom followers considered the living incarnation of God or Jah. Marley's commitment to Rastafari transformed his music into a vehicle for social protest. Through his lyrics, he identified with people facing poverty and unfavorable circumstances, experiences he knew intimately. Indeed, Marley once stated, "Rastafari is not a culture, it's a reality." However, his faith came with challenges. The religion's patriarchal aspects complicated his views on gender equality. His use of stimulants, considered sacred within Rastafarian practice, led to his 1968 arrest. Notably, Marley explained, "When you smoke stimulant reveals itself to you, herbs make you meditate." First and foremost, his spiritual beliefs eventually led him to convert to Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity, shortly before his death. Marley's family structure was remarkably intricate. He married Rita Anderson in 1966. But their union defied convention. The official Bob Marley website acknowledges 11 children, some with Rita and others with different partners. His wife Rita reflected, "As they say, you grunt and bear the infidelity. That's what I had to do because I was so in love with this man." Simultaneously, Rita had relationships outside their marriage, including one with Jamaican soccer player Owen Etal Taki Stewart. Family complexities continued after Marley's death. Without a will, his Rastafarian faith prevented acknowledgement of mortality. His estate fell into disarray. Rita later described the big responsibility of managing his business legacy. Throughout his life, Marley navigated complicated identity questions. Born to an Afro-Jamaican mother and white British father, he faced painful rejection from both sides. Local friends called him white boy, while his white relatives refused to accept him. This rejection profoundly shaped him. After his father's family disowned him, Marley channeled this pain into the song Cornerstone. Significantly, these experiences led him to embrace Pan-Africanism and the unity of African people worldwide. Despite acknowledging his mixed ancestry, Marley ultimately identified as Black African, proclaiming, "I'm not on the white man's side or the black man's side. I'm on God's side, the one who created me and caused me to come from black and white." From his unwavering faith and love for his family, Bob Marley faced far more serious challenges: violence, exile, and assassination attempts. What made the reggae legend a target of dark forces, and how did he overcome those dangers? Discover the dark events that helped shape Bob Marley's life and career. Violence and the assassination attempt. The political turmoil in Jamaica in the mid-1970s pushed Bob Marley into one of the most dangerous and pivotal periods of his life. Caught between rival political factions, the reggae icon faced deadly violence that forced him to flee his homeland. In 1976, Jamaica resembled a war zone. The upcoming election pitted Michael Manley's People's National Party, PNP, against Edward Sega's Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, in a battle that left nearly 100 people dead in political violence. Inspired by Stevie Wonder's charity performance the year before, Marley agreed to headline the Free Smile Jamaica concert, hoping to ease tension. Originally conceived as an apolitical community celebration, the event took a controversial turn when Manley strategically called for elections shortly after the concert's announcement. This move effectively turned Marley's performance into what many saw as a political endorsement. Although Marley remained politically neutral, opposition supporters saw him as an ally of the Manley government. On December 3, 1976, just 2 days before the scheduled concert, gunmen stormed Marley's Hope Road home. Bullets hit Marley's arm and chest, while his wife Rita was wounded in the head. His manager Don Taylor was hit by 5 bullets, but miraculously, he survived. Remarkably, Marley refused to be intimidated. Despite his injuries, he performed at the Smile Jamaica concert just 48 hours after the assassination, giving a 90-minute performance to 80,000 fans. When asked about his decision to perform, he famously declared, "People who are trying to make the world worse don't rest a day. How could I?" Shortly after the concert, Marley fled Jamaica, first to the Bahamas, then to London, beginning an 18-month self-imposed exile. This period of exile, though painful, proved to be creatively fertile. In London, amid the city's burgeoning punk and disco scenes, Marley recorded his masterpiece Exodus in 19. Time magazine later called it the most important album of the 20th century, calling it a political and cultural nexus, inspired by the Third World, and then making its voice heard around the world. With classics like Jamming, Three Little Birds and One Love, Exodus propelled Marley to unprecedented international height. Marley eventually returned to Jamaica in 1978 for the One Love peace concert, where he orchestrated a symbolic handshake between rival political leaders Manley and Sega, a powerful moment that brought a temporary ceasefire in the political violence of the time. After years of violence and assassination attempts, Bob Marley faced another battle, one with illness and decline. How did the great musical icon cope with the terrible disease, and what led to his tragic end? Let's take a look at the reggae legend's final day: illness, decline, and death. Bob Marley's musical triumphs were meant to be immortal, but tragically, they were overshadowed by a life-and-death battle over a seemingly minor injury. In July 1977, Bob Marley was diagnosed with lentiginous acral melanoma, a rare and extremely aggressive form of skin cancer on the bottom of his right big toe. Marley had previously thought the injury was just a soccer injury because it kept coming back and wouldn't heal for years. It's also a classic sign of skin cancer, often manifesting as a persistent sore that won't heal, but few people know about it. Sadly, this type of melanoma is difficult to detect early, especially in people with dark skin like Marley, so it's often discovered when it's already advanced. While the disease silently spread, Marley continued to perform, record and tour, unaware that his life was in danger. In September 1980, his health took a turn for the worse, when Marley suddenly collapsed while jogging in Central Park, New York, shortly after two sold-out nights at Madison Square Garden. Through careful medical tests, doctors discovered that the cancer had spread widely, not only to the original location under the toe, but also to the brain, lungs and liver, a sign of a tragic final stage. When the disease was discovered, the proposed treatment plan was to amputate the damaged big toe, or even some doctors recommended amputating the entire right foot to prevent the disease from spreading. However, Bob Marley firmly refused these options. The reason for this was his deep-seated belief in the Rastafarian religion, which forbids the cutting of any part of the body according to Leviticus 21:5, "You shall not shave your head, nor shave your beard, nor make any cuts in your flesh." Instead, Marley opted for a less invasive treatment, removing the nail and cancerous tissue using a skin graft from his thigh. While it was not a cure, it allowed him to keep his foot intact and was in keeping with his spiritual belief. After his collapse in 1980, Marley still managed to hold his final concert in Pittsburgh on September 23, despite his increasingly failing health. However, he knew the situation was getting worse and began to look for alternative treatment. Marley decided to travel to Germany, where he was cared for by Dr. Josef Issels, a physician known for his holistic approach to treatment, which combines traditional medicine and complementary therapy. Although the approach remains controversial in the medical community, Marley spent 8 months in Germany receiving treatment, even celebrating his 36th birthday during this time. By May 1981, seeing that the treatment was not working and his condition was getting worse, Marley decided to return to Jamaica to live out his final days surrounded by his family and homeland. Unfortunately, on the return flight, his health deteriorated so badly that the plane had to make an emergency landing in Miami. He was rushed to Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, later renamed the University of Miami Hospital, where he breathed his last breath on May 11. The once vibrant body of the reggae legend had now shrunk dramatically, weighing only 82 pounds, about 37 kilograms. Before his death, Bob Marley left behind meaningful and profound final words, each word for his loved ones containing comfort and faith in life. To his son Ziggy, he said, "On the way up, take me up. On the way down, don't let me down." To his other son Stephen, he said, "Money can't buy you life." And at his deathbed, as his wife Rita sang loving hymns, Marley encouraged him, "Leave me, where are you going? What are you crying for? Don't cry, Rita. Just sing. Sing." Sing. What do you think about Bob Marley's decision to keep his religious beliefs and refuse radical surgery? If you were in his shoes, would you dare to face your illness and keep your faith like that? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to like the video.